can start with how he joined the Marine Corps and kind of what he felt about that, you know, and you guys
Okay.
can talk about
Look pleasant.
it.
That's good.
That's good. I'm actually trying to figure out where you guys should look, because I don't know, I don't
Oh.
want you guys to look into the camera, but maybe I should like get a chair. Yeah. So just tell me about how you joined the Marines.
Okay. In the 1960s, this was a time of when the draft was in effect, so that if you flunked out of college or were eligible, you weren't in school or you didn't have a physical disability, you were drafted. And you would go in probably the Army as a private. And these are the Vietnam years. But even before that, I was attracted to the Marine Corps just as kind of a dream. I had seen movies. It was the ideal young man going off on a great adventure. And this was also, I was on a Navy ship. My dad and I and another boy were fishing, and it was near Jacksonville, Florida. I went aboard a Navy ship, and there was a Marine detachment on board with the lieutenant with his dress blues and sword. I was really impressed. But I'd seen all the propaganda about the Marine Corps. And so I found out in college about this Marine Corps officer program, and a guy named Billy Joe McCabe from, I don't know whatever happened to Billy Joe, but he told me about this program. And so I actually took a Greyhound bus from Gainesville, Florida to Jacksonville, spent the night in a rundown hotel, and went in and walked into the recruiter and signed up for the Marine Corps.
Was it pretty easy? It's like signing up, like it wasn't like a big process to.
It wasn't, I was the only one there.
What
And
time did the guy ask you?
he asked me if I was healthy and if I had played sports in high school. And then I took a written exam, which we know today is the GCT test. And it was maybe an hour and a half long. Then he hand graded it. And he said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I said, "Yes." It was 1965, July the 12th, 1965. And I raised my hand, and he swore me in the Marine Corps in this officer program. And he said I could cancel my appointment anytime. So that was pretty good. So instead of taking the required ROTC at the University of Florida, I was out of that. I could just go for 2 summers in officer candidate school in the Marine Corps. That's the short story of how it happened.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so when did you meet Grandma in this time period?
By that time, I transferred to Florida State University and majored in biology, and then all science majors had to take a physics class, heat, light, and electricity, and so I took that, and then I had a lab on Friday afternoons, and we met in the lab. We were actually paired up as lab partners, and I remember the lab assistant, a graduate assistant, ran the lab, and he read the names, made the assignments for lab partners. And I waited for him to read my name, and he went through the whole class. I think we were probably the last names read. He said, "Mr. Ingram and Miss Moore." And I said, "Oh, I've got a girl as a lab partner." And I looked down the lab table, and I saw Sarah. And I don't know, something clicked, but I liked her from the very second I saw her. It was really kind of, I don't know how to describe it.
It was called love.
Yeah.
At first sight.
I love it it was love at first sight. I really believe that. And so she was dating another guy, so I didn't we didn't date till the spring break.
Yes, so this is my part of the story.
Yeah, please.
So David had just gone through the one summer of his Marine Corps, the PLC program, and so he was going to Florida State. He was actually a senior. I was too, and we actually had a German class together, but we didn't really know each other until we were assigned as lab partners. And as he said, I was dating another guy, which I was just dating him. It was kind of serious. You know how those things go. But then I met David, and so things started changing. And when they really changed was when this boyfriend went home on spring break and left me there in Tallahassee. And David called me up and asked me if I would like to go out for a Coke. And I said, sure, because he was just a great guy. And so, but we really had gotten to know each other. And so it sounds kind of crazy, but we had known each other for a whole semester, every week. And his mother said that, because he was living at home and so was I living at home, and his mother told me that every Friday he would come home and take a shower, and yeah, he was looking good. Let's put it that way. And so so he took me out on this date, and then the very next night we had another date, and then the next night we had another date, and by then we decided we were getting married. And
hard to believe.
What was your first date? You know, because in the script, so I wrote out.
Yeah.
Like, not like your first date. I had the first date as going to a movie just because that was easy, and I was able to get a vintage car to use. Actually, a 90s, and it's like a 1965 VW Bug, bright red. It looked so cool. But and so then I had him pick you up and then go to the movie. But what was
it turned out to be a movie, because he said, let's just go get a Coke, and it turned out we went to this place called Lum's. I don't know if they still have it. And those were in the old days before we joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So we also had a beer, and we had these great hot dogs, and we went to a movie. It was called Blow Up. And
It's a famous movie.
yeah, it's an artsy movie, kind of movie. And so, can I tell the story about the hand-holding story?
Sure.
Okay, so we were sitting there, and of course, you know, in theaters it's kind of cold. So David took my hand and touched it to his nose, and he said, "See, my nose is cold," and then he never let go of my hand. Which
That's
I thought
smooth,
that was
Grandpa.
very smooth,
That's
and and so other little romantic thing we did. I lived across the street from a golf course, and in my years, all the kids, you know, who came over to our house or whatever, we always would go over to the golf course and walk around it at night, which is a nice thing. And so David and I went walking on the golf course, and kind of as we walked along, David said, "Well, what are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, I guess we're getting married."
Yeah, we
and
did.
that
We
was
decided
that
to
was the
get married.
biggest proposal. It wasn't, you know, we never did decide if he ever proposed to me. It was just an understood thing. And here we are 54 years later, and we're still there.
Very fortunate.
Yeah. But so I actually graduated before he did,
Yeah.
1 quarter. And so right after I graduated, we got married, which is what everybody did in those days.
Uh-huh.
You get married.
Yeah.
So we did.
Not like now.
And yeah, none of this living together. And so we got married, and we lived in student housing for a quarter while he finished up. And I had a job, and it's amazing how little back in 68, you could live on. And I earned enough money to pay for his dress whites, which the Marines wore in those days, and that's what he wore when he was commissioned. And he was commissioned in a ceremony at Florida State, and my mom and his parents came, and I pinned his second lieutenant bars on him, and his dad pinned the other one on, and off we went. Packed up our stuff, and it wasn't a VW, it was a Mustang.
It was a Mustang. I knew that.
Oh, okay. We got in this
I tried,
Mustang,
but I couldn't get a
66 Mustang.
and we had a little trailer thingy with our,
Little U-Haul trailer.
yeah.
And
And
we
off-
were off into the world.
Yes.
2 little birdies.
We didn't know anything about anything. And so he went to, and the Marine Corps has a basic school that you go to for 6 months. Everybody, no matter what they're heading off to. And in fact, in the basic school, you kind of decide what you're going to be. And I encouraged David not to be in the infantry, so he chose the artillery, which turned out to be a great
Yeah,
choice,
that was a
except
great
for his
choice.
hearing.
Ah, yes.
What'd you say?
So, but yeah, we had, so while he was in Vietnam, our first child was born, and, but it was fine. He came home from Vietnam, and our first son, Matthew, just acted as if he'd always been there. And so we actually, counting the time we moved to our first apartment
Yeah.
until he retired, we moved 20 times.
Times. Oh my gosh.
But see, a lot of them were short moves for schools,
Yeah.
things like that. But the longest we ever would live in one place, or 2 times, I think. 2 times we lived one place for 4 years, maybe just one. But anyway,
We moved.
we did. We moved. We learned about moving, and
We lived in some great places.
we did. We actually our most exotic tour was when we went to Israel.
Oh, yeah.
We
that's
lived
right.
in Israel for a year, and we took 2. Matthew and Holly went with us.
Oh, I was a little girl.
She turned 4 over there, and it was great. We loved that, and David got some really good tours while I stayed home, because that's what Marine wives do a lot. But it was fine, because I was raised to be an independent woman. My mother, who was a single mother, and so I never fussed about that, did I?
You were a great Marine Corps officer's wife. You know, very self-reliant and responsible, and no whining.
Yeah.
Always looking forward to the next adventure. Climbed Mount Sinai at night. She did. Pregnant.
With Paul.
Wow.
I mean, this is
And-
a pioneer woman.
Strong woman.
But you have to be a Marine wife. They say the toughest job in the Navy is the wife of the Marine, or the Navy, because they're out at sea a lot. But David had some good tours. He was. Well, tell me about your tour with Mount Whitney.
Well, yeah, they pretty well handpicked guys to be in the small amphibious planning staff. It was a NATO thing for the northern flank of Europe.
Okay.
And so I got picked to be the intelligence officer for this small staff, and we were stationed for periods of time aboard the Atlantic Fleet flagship, which is very nice because the admiral was on board.
Yeah.
And but we worked hard, and we were constantly going to Europe. You'd fly to Europe, have a meeting with either the British or the Germans or the Danes or the Norwegians, and then come back. And these are the days when all of us decided to have this kind of little running club. We ran a couple marathons together, and so we'd take our running stuff, and when we got to Europe, if you had any time off, you'd go for a run. So we ran through Copenhagen, Oslo, Hamburg, Germany,
Hyde
London,
Hyde Park.
Hyde Park, London, a number of times. And it was really a lot of fun. Poor Sarah
I
was
had the
home with all the
teenagers.
teenagers.
Ah, yes.
while I was off living in nice hotels, and it was really a.
But to
lot of
back
fun.
up a little bit, at one point in his tour in the Marine Corps, he changed from artillery to intelligence.
Yeah,
And so that's why he had that job.
yeah, I had that job.
But
It was
so
great.
artillery, he did have some good jobs. One of them was he taught a lot in schools. He taught in the basic school. He taught at the artillery school at Fort Sill, where your mother was born.
Yeah,
And but yeah, it was kind of like every Marine's dream, because tell him about teaching about the machine gun and all that.
oh yeah, I was at the officer basic school. The instructors were divided in different groups. I was in the weapons training group, so I was the machine gun instructor for about a year. And so it was really great because a new class of Marines, we'd train them in the classroom how to assemble and disassemble the M60 machine gun, and then we would take them to the field. They'd be in the grandstands, about 150 lieutenants or so, and I would get their attention by having a loaded M60 machine gun. I would walk out with it over my shoulder it had a belt on it.
Yeah.
And would walk out, and downrange, about 200 meters downrange, was a barrel, a 55-gallon drum with about, a couple gallons of gasoline in the bottom. So I would walk out and I'd say, "Good morning, Alpha Company." I would turn around with a machine gun and go brrr, and shoot the machine gun, and then the barrel would blow up.
Oh my
They would all these lieutenants would go crazy.
That's awesome.
So it was a lot of fun.
That's
But those days were different. The assistant instructor and I would, just for practice, anytime we wanted, we could load up a car with a couple of machine guns and take it out to the range, just shoot machine guns all day. So we set up a machine gun qualification course, which I don't think that had been done in the Marine Corps since World War II, for the lieutenants, and that became an integral part of the infantry officers training course.
Wow.
So it was a lot of fun. Then I got to be a company executive officer, which is an administrative job, and a company commander for one group of lieutenants. So that was a good tour, and I had a great Marine Corps tour, Marine Corps career.
Yeah.
It was really great.
But then he had to retire,
Yeah.
Of course.
and I told him, I said, "Well, David, this is fine. You reached your goals in the Marine Corps, but now you have to still support us, because we still had 2 children in high school."
Yeah.
And so he became. Tell him what you did, honey.
Okay, I got a call on the phone. I was actually kind of looking for jobs in the Tampa area where I retired. And got a call from headquarters of Marine Corps saying, "How would you like to be a Marine Corps Junior ROTC instructor? You'll be paid as a colonel," which was a really great deal.
Wow, really? So
Yeah.
you were just
Still paid.
teaching the junior ROTC?
Yeah, still paid as a
You got
colonel.
Paid as a colonel. Wow.
You'll be influencing a lot of young people, and you've been an instructor, so that's your strong suit. So I said, "Yeah, I'd like to do that." So they asked me to drive up to Georgia from Tampa, and I drove up and I went to this rural school called East Coweta High School, which is significantly smaller than it was today. I had a hard time finding the place, actually. And I interviewed with the principal, who had been a Marine enlisted man in Vietnam. And he said, "We'll hire you right now." And so I went back and decided to do that, and I did that for 15 years. And it was really great. I had a good master sergeant working with me, and we did a lot of good things in the high school
Yeah.
to support the high school. And
And in the community.
and in the community, and it was a fairly intensive job, a lot of Saturday work, and working with young people, but it was good. Then,
Can I stop for a
yeah, go
second?
ahead.
The great thing about that junior ROTC program, I didn't really understand it. I didn't really know what he was supposed to do, but actually it was a leadership program. And so after the first year, when they realized it was not a discipline program.
Mhm.
You know, send in the criminals, you know,
It
get
wasn't
them
a
in,
punitive
get him in
thing.
line, you know, that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
stuff, because he's a Marine. No, it wasn't that at all. It was teaching leadership skills. And it was a great thing, you know how people have a niche, they find a niche in a high school, like band or theater or, I don't know, debate, whatever. But this
Yeah.
was, so these kids, they found a place where they could be. And they could learn leadership skills, but they also, one of the cool things about junior ROTC, if you did the 4 years ROTC, or however it was set up in that particular high school, if you joined the Marine, was it any service or
Any
just the Marine Corps?
service.
Joined any service, you would go up 2 pay grades because you've had that all that training. You knew how to march, you knew the history, you knew about shooting.
Self-discipline.
Yeah, all that, and so anyway, which is pretty cool. And so, David, tell him how many of your students actually. Tell them about some of them, because now we meet them now, and they're married,
Yeah.
and have kids.
I went into an office supply. It was Office Depot last year to get something, and the girl behind the counter was one of my students. I didn't really recognize her.
Yeah.
And she just raved about how much that program did for her in terms of self-confidence, ability to speak and deal with people. So I went, wow, that was really great. And we had 6 of our cadets go to the Naval Academy, and our officers in the Navy and a couple in the Marine Corps. One went to West Point on a shooting scholarship.
A girl.
Yeah.
Wow.
Girl.
That's impressive.
And one went to University of West Virginia on a shooting scholarship. So
And after you
a lot of great
left,
kids.
after you left the RC, didn't they win the
Mhm.
national
Won
championship?
the national championship in air rifle.
Wow.
National championship.
That's pretty good in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only national
National
championship.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I didn't have much to do with that, but we supported the program.
Yeah.
My master sergeant did most of the work. A lot of hours.
And they have, the Marine Corps supplied them with really great
Mhm.
the guns.
You know,
or
the
whatever they're
rifles are
called,
Olympic
rifles.
shooting rifles. They were like $1,500 a piece. Really nice, German-made stuff. So that was great. And then I received a calling in the church that would require me to serve on Saturdays and sometimes Fridays. So
And son, yeah.
over the weekend. So I told the principal I needed to retire. And so I did have that BA in biology, but I wasn't a certified teacher. So I took a series of exams
Mm-hmm.
and then received permission to do a 1-year supervised practicum where I'd be observed teaching in it. So I taught biology for 4 years, which I really enjoyed as well, and did even my activities in the school had even expanded a little bit. So the 19th year, when I was called to serve in the temple, it was really tough leaving the school. I was at this high school for 19 years. I knew every crack in the sidewalk and knew the people there. And I still see teachers and some of the custodians who are at the high school, they still say hello when I see them. I go back to the high school occasionally
Yeah.
and say hello to people. It's changed a lot, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Everything changes. But for me, it was a great career, and it kind of, I stepped into what are my strong points, or teaching and dealing with people person.
Yeah.
I really feel very, very fortunate for that.
Yeah.
And the retirement we get.
Yes. Good.
Really
It's
great.
kind of hard to watch any military movie with him, though, because he's always saying, "Nah, that
They
kid."
never
man."
do that.
That's
No.
not how they do it. Yeah.
I
No
keep
way.
saying, "Honey, it's a movie.
Yeah.
It's a movie." But
Yeah, we had our 4 children all over the place.
and we have 15 great
15
grandchildren.
wonderful
I mean,
grandchildren.
Not great grandchildren, but
15 wonderful
you know what I mean.
amazing
Our grandchildren are great.
Yeah. pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. And now we have been serving in this calling in the church, and it's our temple that's in Atlanta, Georgia, that was dedicated in 1983, and we're coming to the end of our 3-year calling here, which will be over in August, and it has been really a wonderful experience. Great people to work with, and it's just been a wonderful spiritual atmosphere. And with the pandemic, it's been a lot of challenges, but they've been kind of fun to overcome. And we get these, we get from the temple department, this is what you have to do, and this is the precautions we have to take, and we just do it with great help from our David's counselors.
So we're about to step into a new phase in our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
Yeah, like, what's next?
not quite sure what we're going to do.
Yeah, you guys been doing this
Yeah.
for 3 years.
I think
We've always been kind of involved.
That's right, yeah. There's
And-
always been going from one calling to
Yeah.
the next.
I think that's important, not to just eat potato chips and watch TV. We're going to
Yeah,
do
it's-
we're
We're
going
going to do some of
Yeah,
that.
do
Yeah,
some.
busy.
do some of that.
No, we just we want to do some traveling. We want to stay healthy. We want to
Do some adventuresome stuff.
like what? Not Africa, I hope.
No,
I have a fear of lions. Big time.
Big
but
time.
who knows? I mean,
Yeah, that's the fun part. We don't really know exactly what we're doing,
Yeah.
but with
We're
his
gonna do
hard
some-
work all those years that he worked, we do have an income that can
Yeah.
take care of us.
we're good. We're flexible
Right.
and healthy. Knock on wood.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a wonderful life so far.
Yeah. That's great. Let's see. Let's wrap it up by if you guys have any advice. I kind of was wondering, like, what do you think is your key to having a long, successful marriage?
I would say a sense of humor, an ability to change, putting the other person first. I'm not really that good at that, but I do occasionally. And I think viewing this as a journey you couldn't make by yourself. Be really depending on the other person.
As we look back, we like I said previously, people just got married
Yeah.
in our youth. We didn't actually do a lot of research on marriage.
Yeah.
My parents were divorced. His parents were married and
Married forever.
been married, and she was a homemaker. She was a registered nurse, but she was a homemaker, and her heritage is German, so she was very conscious of her homemaking skills, but she took very good care of her. She had 2 sons and David's father, so she took care of her men, and actually kind of spoiled them,
We were very spoiled.
to tell you the truth.
She even ironed my underwear.
Really?
That is true. Made our beds. I never made a bed.
Yeah. Wow.
Cleaned up our bedroom. If you wanted something to eat, she prepared a meal for you. I was totally spoiled.
In contrast, my mother was very eccentric, but she was very independent, and so I, of course, was, which turned out to be a benefit as a Marine wife, but
Yeah.
David had to get used to that. And so that there was conflict. But there will be when you come from 2 different.
Yeah.
But we had to learn how to handle the conflict.
Mm.
It's not he was wrong and I was right. It was we were different, and we really had to come to it. And I think that's one of the keys to the marriage is you don't always have to be right.
Yeah.
But we work on this.
Compromise.
We work on this every day of our lives.
Yeah, we still compromise.
You cannot just change a personality. You have to learn to live with it and
Yeah.
be self-sacrificing and forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of the way that David used to say when he taught ninth graders, you don't take anything personally, and remember,
Yeah.
everybody's a basket case, pretty much. We're all a little bit crazy. We all have our little emotional blow-ups and
Yeah.
things like that. So we just,
This isn't Burger King and you can't have it your way. Got to remember that.
I hope you do, honey.
I'll try.
But that's it. We still have a good time with each other. We still laugh. We both like to watch movies. I do not, maybe he likes to ride bicycles and go on trips. I'm not that adventurous. I'm afraid that I'll fall, and going downhill 90 miles an hour is not for me. He likes that. But I go along in the car on a lot of trips. And he doesn't care what I do when I want to do something individually. So I think that's one of the keys, is that you respect each other's individuality.
Yeah. And independence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Important.
And we raised some good kids.
Raised 4 wonderful children.
All of them have jobs. They're all
Yeah. Responsible.
Yeah.
Good
Very much
parents.
so. I have a wonderful mother.
Yeah, you
You
sure
guys.
do.
but
She is wonderful.
we, hopefully each of them will be like Holly and able to
Yeah.
accept challenges and disappointments, and
They're all responsible. They work hard at what they do, and they love their children. Every one of them. Can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah.
they love us.
They're all great.
They put up with us.
Yeah.
So that's us.
It's you guys.
Yeah.
David and Sarah. Story of David and Sarah.
That
Story
is
David
us.
Sarah.
Sweet.
There's going to be an epilogue apparently.
Yes. It'll be like after the movie ends, and then it'll be like, here's where they are, this is who they really are. But, alright. Sweet.
So was that good?
Yeah, it was really good.
Okay.
Okay.